I'm Michelle Barone.
And I'm Mark Malone. This morning on Wake Up with Rhinebeck Bank, we paid tribute to the lives lost and the sacrifices made on September 11th, 2001.
We are here at the Tribute Museum in Manhattan to bring you volunteers, first responders, survivors, and many others to share their 9/11 story.
We're here with Lee Ielpe, co-founder of the 9/11 Tribute Museum here in Lower Manhattan. Lee, talk to us about your story on September 11th.
My story is similar to many thousands of stories. Turned the television on, my son had called me, I watched the television for a short minute. I'm retired New York City fire, so my thought then was to come into the city to help, because you don't retire from the New York City Fire Department. My son Jonathan, who called me, was in a special unit, a squad, and he said, "Dad, we're going to the World Trade Center." And I said, "Okay, buddy, be careful." Yeah, I can't tell you. Okay, ready? Okay. So I said, "Okay, Jonathan, be careful." And that's the last time I spoke to my son. My son and 19 men that came out of the one firehouse that he was in, a squad 288, all 19 men never went home that night, but they died like many of the uniformed people, all of them. They had a mission, they came and they carried out their mission. I came to the site to, of course, to try and find my son, but anybody along the way was going to be a godsend for somebody, right? I did spend 9 months in recovery. It took 3 months to the day to find Jonathan, and we were blessed. We were able to bring him home, what they call a whole body. We have his helmet that we found weeks after. We have his turnout coat that we found weeks after. In working at the site for 9 months, a lot of thoughts went through my mind about what are we doing. Met a wonderful young lady, her name is Jennifer Adams-Webb, who came down to the site as a volunteer within the first 5 or 6 days, as did many thousands of wonderful people from across the country who came to help. Jennifer stayed at the site, as I said, about 3.5 months. She then started working with us, and us being what we became known as the Coalition of 9/11 Families. During that time period, our big mission, the Coalition of Families, was to preserve the site and what would be coming for the future. Once we finished that work, which took quite a number of years, Jennifer and I moved to a new location, which was downtown, right by Century 21. And Jennifer, who is the brains, said, "Why don't we do some walking tours and see how that works out?" We brought a group in, came in from Phillipsburg, Kansas, young kids, and as Jen said, the kids were typical high school, fidgeting. I started talking, they quieted down, they listened, they cried, they smiled. I make sure people leave with a positive. And then Jen said, "Why don't we do this as a project?" So we started our walking tours. Who gives the tours? It's what we call the 9/11 community. We've trained over 900 guys, all volunteers, family members, rescue recovery workers, survivors who made it out, volunteers like Jennifer, people who lived and worked in the area. Then the time came where Jennifer said, "Why don't we try to lease that little building," as we looked out our window from the 20th floor, "and we'll make it into a visitors learning center." The mission started. I think the good Lord had a lot to do with this, because we accomplished the mission, just the two of us. So try to figure that one out. Our walking tour program has been in existence now, it's going to be 13 years.
Wow.
The Tribute Center itself is going to be 12 years. We had a little location up off of Liberty Street, 6,000 square feet of museum space. Then the big museum, the 9/11 Memorial Museum, came along.
Which is different
Yes.
from...
We're totally different,
Yes.
but we partner with them. We have written agreements with them. Their mission is more focused, you could say, like a Smithsonian. Our mission here is, this is a place where people come in to learn what happened on 9/11. And who better to tell them than people that experienced it, that lived it?
Absolutely.
We do not want people leaving here with a negative. We want people leaving here with the thought that tomorrow must be a better day. And who better to tell you that than people that were affected by 9/11?
And before you're telling me this now, that's the first thing I took away after doing a tour through the museum this morning. By the end of the museum, it goes from telling the story of that day and you leave with a positive. And that's absolutely...
You're an advocate.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful.
Happy to be.
We
Yes.
talk about education, we talk about enlightenment. If we don't explain to our young people what happened to us, our world, not New York City, the world on 9/11, then we failed. So the mission is simple. It is simple. We start off in the back in a dark area, which shows you 9/11 with videos and some very difficult moments. And then we progress from the dark to the light. And we end in the last gallery with education, with understanding, with the thought that, as you said, you have to leave here with a positive thought, with a smile. Because tomorrow's got to be a better day, especially for our young people.
You are amazing. To start something like this is unbelievable, and it's definitely making a mark in history.
Certainly a great resource to write not just to the community, but really to the world and those visitors that are here in New York City to come down to Lower Manhattan and check it out. And I'm so sorry for your loss, but
Yes.
thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you so very much.
We keep all of those people alive, don't
Thank
we?
you. Yes, you do. Thank you.
The way to do it.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Another one just hit the building. Wow. Wow. Another one hit it hard. Another one just hit the World Trade. The whole building just came apart. Holy smokes. All right, I guess you guys can be busy. There was an end?
So we're here with Dan. Dan is a former officer in the New York City Fire Department, also a former Con Edison employee, correct?
Correct, yes.
And a responder, a 9/11 responder.
Yes.
That's unbelievable. Tell us a little bit about your history. Did you grow up here?
Yes, I'm a native New Yorker, born in Brooklyn, New York, and went to school here. Eventually got married in 1980, moved to Staten Island with 2 kids. My career path started in the fire department. I have an engineering background. 1977, I came on the job, moved up to the ranks, got involved with hazardous materials and terrorism after 1993.
Interesting.
Which was, that was the first attack on the World Trade
Yes,
Center.
the first event that we had 6 fatalities, and we geared up to train the firefighters about terrorism in our neighborhoods as a first responder, looking for secondary devices, booby traps, and so forth. I wind up going to the academy teaching firefighters about hazardous materials and also terrorism there. I wind up getting promoted, and just probably 2 or 3 months before 9/11, I retired because I had a nice opportunity to work for a great company called Con Edison in New York. It's a utility for New York City and the 5 boroughs and up in Westchester. They're looking for a person with specialty in hazardous materials and terrorism. Also help them out in responding to emergencies, chemical spills, and that's where my job helping the citizens here, not only in the fire service, but also in Con Edison.
So, I mean, and when you took that job, you probably didn't know what was about to happen. And what did your day on 9/11 look like?
Wow, it started a beautiful day, clear day, the first day of high school. I just kissed my daughter for first day of high school, left there, went to work early in the morning, Tuesday morning, and like 8:20 I got in. And do like nothing else, just get myself ready to go out and do inspections for various locations, substations, and generators and so forth. Normal day. It was a great day. Very challenging job because I was responsible for over 14,000 utility workers. And responding to emergencies, helping to coordinate emergency events with the fire service and police service as well. Around the time of the attack, 8:45 or so, we heard a tremendous roar over the building that we had working in the corporate headquarters, and noticed people moving around towards a window. I got to the window, I saw the first tower in flames and smoke, and we sort of was shocked. I was baffled what's going on. How can a plane on a clear day hit this building? So thereafter, we saw the second plane hit the second building, and everything went crazy in my building. I can imagine all the office buildings in Manhattan, because people were screaming, crying, trying to call their loved ones home. And we're like 20 blocks north from here. And I tried to call my wife, but she didn't answer the phone because I guess she took my daughter to high school. So I left to my boss to come down. There's a local firehouse down the block.
And so you're retired now?
I'm retired. I was retired, but you know, it's a job that's in your blood. It's a brotherhood. You know, I had a father and a brother on the job, and I was so involved with it. I was real sort of a liaison with the fire department through Con Edison, and went down to a local firehouse. The companies were gone, and I asked one of the fellow firefighters, "Here, I just retired. Can I help you out?" They had mentioned that, "Can you do me a favor and take the names of members coming in?" It was a total recall of all FDNY firefighters. So as they're coming to the particular firehouse, I was taking their names and badge numbers, and I asked them to make sure you get your bunker gear and get onto these city buses that were outside this particular firehouse. And then at the time, I was looking in the corner of my eye, a TV that was not too far from the house watch, the first building coming down. And we're all amazed. Many of us couldn't believe, is that the building? You know, or maybe it's just smoke. It came straight down. Many of us were screaming, yelling, cursing at the TV, at the local firehouse. And we have like 255 firehouses in the city of New York. So imagine all the firehouses watching on TV, shocked of what's going on to our city here. I was confused. I didn't really have any communication, just a little pager, which went dead.
Did you know at this point that the plane had hit?
Oh yes, we knew that the plane was hit. It was, you know, on TV.
Yeah,
and
so
we
you
saw the
saw
second
TV.
plane hit.
Okay.
So we had two planes within 15, 16 minutes of each other hitting this building. And everything like went chaos in the city. Everybody was, you go down the street and you see people running all over the place, which is a mile away, and they were running all over, like, you know, happening in that neighborhood.
And for those of us that weren't here, I mean, we see the images on TV. I can only imagine being.
Yeah, it's
in the
three-dimensional. You hear the people screaming, crying in the streets. You know, it was just something that was eerie. You know, it was like an Armageddon. That people, like, it was a movie scene. We were like 20, 25 blocks north here. So after a time in the firehouse helping them out, I had a vehicle that to respond from the company, and I told the officer that I'd like to leave, to get relief, and go down to the pile. So I drove down to the pile. I call it a pile, and that's when the second building came down. And I got out of my vehicle, maybe up at Canal Street. I started making my way down here. And it was heavy smoke, debris all over the place, people running in all directions. And I get closer to the pile. I had some coveralls and gear with me to help me. I didn't have a mask on, but I got closer to the pile and making sense of where is these buildings, where are these streets? There's no street lights, no signs, street signs all over the place. And it was just freelancing, people all over the place. I see members of the fire department, police department in full uniform. Some with just shorts on. Many of them came from all directions to help out. And I get to the pile, which is, you know, maybe 70, 80 feet up high.
Wow.
And, you know, it's a lot of shrapnel and concrete and everything that resembles construction, but no windows, no elevators, no signs of people. And after a period of time, we were like making quiet because we want to hear people if there's any survival. And I heard a chirping sound coming from the pile. And the chirping sound is a device that's integrated into the fire department air pack.
This is something that you created.
Yeah, it's a pass device that's chirps after 30 seconds. So a firefighter turns on the air pack, and after 30 seconds, if we become motionless, period, that device goes off, like 95 decibels, on and off. And it's really eerie sound. I knew what it was, but it was unfortunate that it was impossible to get down below because the tremendous weight load of the building was on top of them. So after, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours, you know, really spent and tired and aggravated and all the emotional feelings I had, came off the pile, heading up north. Eventually found Con Edison medical van, got some R&R, and wound up being assigned to stay there overnight, and wind up to work out for the next 6 months, 5 to 6 months, from 6 o'clock at night to 6 in the morning to do recovery for Con Edison. So what I did for the next 5 or 6 months was really, for the fire department, I really volunteered my time on the pile to help out on my days off. The days I was working, I was assigned down there to help the so-called 14,000 utility workers to bring the infrastructure back up. We lost all power, steam, gas, electricity.
And that's a project that you don't often hear about. I mean, that's
we
tremendous.
powered the grid, emergency lighting, generators we had, fuel. We ran over, I think, almost 40 miles of high voltage wires all over. Soon thereafter, after a few days or so, found out that the gentleman, Vice President Dick Morgan, who basically helped hire me, was also murdered that day. So, it was really emotional to lose someone like that.
I can't imagine the feelings that you have telling this story, but I have to say we appreciate you sharing it with us.
We are honored to hear something like this, and thank you for telling your story and for delivering it to us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And have a wonderful day. I hope today's a sunny day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan.
Bye.
Okay, so we're here with Ann. Ann, thank you so much for joining us today. Ann has a story to share with us. You've lost your husband on September 11th.
Yes.
And before we get started, I want to hear a little bit about your husband. Tell us about Bruce.
Bruce always wanted to be a firefighter. It took him a long time to become a New York City firefighter, which to him was a real firefighter. That's what he said. He wanted to be a real firefighter.
He's got the tall building.
Yes, the real buildings. So that was a long process, but he got on the job and he loved every minute of it, every day. And on September 11th, I knew he would be down here because he was part of a squad, which is Special Operations Command, SOC group. And my daughters and I think of September 11th not as somebody took Daddy's life, but Daddy laid his life down, something he was willing to do any day. And we're very proud of him. And and he, you know what? He died doing what he loved.
You have two daughters?
Yes.
Two daughters, and how old were they?
They were 14 and 17. Megan had just started high school, and Emily was in her senior year.
I can't imagine. I'm sure they were strong young ladies.
Well, I kind of went into mother lion mode, protect the kids, because who knew what was happening? We all were like, what's going on here? But our faith is very important to us, so that played a big role. We had wonderful neighbors and a church community, and just our basic little town came together, and all of America really came together. And
You have an amazing attitude about it, and it's such a good way to look at it. What has come from this for you and your family?
The opportunity to tell Bruce's story, that, if you have a dream, just keep pursuing it, and maybe someday you'll get to do that. And 11 and a half years ago, I started volunteering with the Tribute Center, which has really been the most amazing experience of my life. I've met people I never would have known, ever, because our lives we wouldn't have crossed paths. And now some of those people are, some of my best friends. As I say to people, they didn't know Bruce, but they know Bruce's story, and they do life with me. And that's a gift. That's a gift. I have opportunity to speak to young people. I'm an educator, so that's always something that I found important, that telling the next generation. So I have opportunity.
And we agree, and that's one of the reasons Michelle and I thought it was important to do this episode, is because we want to be able to tell the story to that next generation that doesn't quite remember.
Yeah, well, actually now they weren't even born. Even the kids last year graduating from high school would have only been 2, so they wouldn't have known anything about it, because good parenting once your 2-year-old doesn't know what's happening.
This is in a history book.
It's in a history book, but as long as we at Tribute can keep real people in front of today's students so that they meet somebody. Now, I'm sure in your own lives, you had opportunity to meet people that went through stuff, and it just made it, this is poor English, but made it more real, because it's not just a name in a book. It's a real person who
was actually
experienced
affected.
this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And especially in the New York area, you know, we need to do that.
What are some of the things that you do to educate others about 9/11?
Well, with the Tribute Center of Opportunity to speak on when I do walking tours, and also speak to school groups, and speaking to school groups is actually my favorite. And especially when we get like 6th graders in here who aren't afraid to ask questions. They have a lot of great questions. The high school kids are like, you know, a little too cool to ask questions. We got to figure out how to use the technology to get them to ask questions.
And actually, there's a great technology spot at the end of the exhibit.
Yes, there is, yeah, which is perfect, you know, because we got to meet them where they are too. But the younger kids, the 6th graders, the 10 to 12-year-olds ask just amazing questions, and some of them are questions we can't really even answer. But you try to, you know, and it's an amazing experience.
It must be interesting to see so many different perspectives.
Yes.
On that day, from children to people who've lost someone to people who, you know, just heard
First
about
responders.
it. Yeah, first
Yeah,
responders.
you
There's
know,
so many.
One of the most amazing experiences at Tribute was a few years ago when a young Muslim girl walked up to me afterwards. You know, she was a student, and she said to me, you know, after 9/11, my dad was questioned. He was taken in. And even now, just thinking about it, like, what do you say to a kid who saw that happen? And all I could say to her was, I'm sorry, that was wrong, that was fear. And we can't live in fear.
Exactly right.
We can't, you know, so it's amazing. It's amazing. I'm truly blessed to have opportunities that I have.
Well, thank you for sharing your story
Oh,
with us,
thank
and also
you.
thank you for giving back in this amazing tribute museum.
Thank you.
You're certainly a resource to those that are coming to try to learn
Thank
more.
you.
Yes, thank you so much, Anne.
You're welcome. It's great. It's great meeting
Thank you,
you.
Ann.
Thank you.
Tommy, it sounds like we're talking to New York, but there's another one aimed at the World Trade Center.
There's another aircraft?
The second one just hit the Trade Center.
Okay, so we're here with Maria, who happens to be somebody very near and dear to my heart. This is my aunt, and Maria is a survivor of September 11th, and also a former employee of the Port Authority. And so thank you for joining us today,
Thank
Maria.
you so much, and you helped us coordinate this whole entire effort. This was unbelievable. Thank you very much.
You're very, very welcome.
What was life like in working in the World Trade Center?
The World Trade Center was a very energetic and dynamic place. Aside from the 2 beautiful towers that were 110 stories and shiny and nice and everything, everyone had a world-class view. It was just unbelievable to work there. There was so much energy, so many people, 50,000 people worked there. And in the morning when you got off the train and you went in the concourse to go to your office, there was like this hum of humanity that I will never forget. It just buzzed along, and people were always going places. It's New York, people walk fast. But it was just this hum of humanity that I'll never forget, and that's one thing I will really miss.
That is unbelievable.
So we've talked a lot over the years since September 11th about your experience, and I know it was a very difficult day for you, and something I know you still think about all the time. Can you bring us back to that day and tell us what happened?
Well, on that day, I was running a little late, and I live in Hoboken, New Jersey, and I take this PATH train under the Hudson River. I was running a little late, and the other thing too was I wanted a seat. I always want a seat, but I decided to wait 4 or 5 minutes for the next train. I knew I'd be in my office by 9 o'clock. So I waited for a seat, which I got, which was the best decision I ever made in my life, because I probably wouldn't be here speaking with you. I either would have been in the lobby, a very bad place to be, in the North Tower, or I would have been in the elevator, another very bad place to be. But I got my seat, life was good, came in, it's only 8 to 10 minutes, it's not a long trip. We got off the train, and we had to, about 1,000 people on the train, and we started coming up the very, very steep escalators to access the concourse area to get into the buildings. And it smelled really bad, like diesel fuel, and people started coughing and choking, and almost at the same time, the Port Authority police came running down the concourse screaming, "Run for your lives, run for your lives, run for your lives." So,
And you lived through the '93 terrorism attack as well.
actually, I wasn't in the building for '93, but I was there for the aftermath. So anyway, we ran like crazy, and we started a stampede, and we came running out. we didn't know what we were running from, so we came running out to a blizzard of debris because we actually ran out under the big, huge gaping hole that American Airlines Flight 11 had made in the North Tower between the 93rd and 99th floor, but we didn't know that. So this blizzard of debris, white material just pouring on people. People were getting injured, and I looked up and I said, oh my gosh, what is this? What is this? I mean, I went like this. I couldn't believe it. And then I immediately started thinking about everyone in my customer relations staff. Where is everybody? Where is everybody? And I got on my cell phone and I was screaming, get out, get out, get out. But no cell phones worked. But I was screaming nonetheless. And we were surrounded by people lying on the sidewalk who had been hit with the debris. And a whole bunch of very strong young men picked those people up and brought them around the corner to in front of the post office, where we thought we were out of harm's way and away from the blizzard of debris, which we were temporarily. And I take no credit for picking people up. I did not. I picked up pocketbooks, briefcases, pick it up, and run. And then I figured I should probably let my bosses who were at a conference in Boston, Massachusetts, I figured I should let them know what's going on. And I figured also, because your heart starts pounding like crazy, you can't believe what you're looking at. It's so real. So I said, you know, I probably need to relax. I go sit down. And I looked across the street, and there was a church, St. Peter's Church. I said, aha, I'll go in there, I'll relax, I'll count to 10, and I'll take a deep breath, and I'll be fine. I'm fine, I can help. So I went into the church, and I wasn't the only person in the church. Hundreds of people were in the church. And all those deep breathing exercises you take in in yoga doesn't work, sorry, if in a real emergency. So there I was in the church, and no cell phones worked, but we had BlackBerry. So I BlackBerried my bosses, and the BlackBerry did work. I BlackBerried my bosses and said, you know what's going on down here? And they wrote back, can you go back in the building? And I wrote back, turn on TV, and because they were in a conference. And they wrote back in about 60 seconds. They couldn't believe it. To us, that's unimaginable. We were always told nothing like this would happen to the buildings. So they said, okay, we're leaving Boston immediately. Can you do us a favor? I said, sure. They said, well, you be our eyes and ears, and you know, till we get there. It takes about 3.5 to 4 hours to drive back. So I was sitting in the church, and with hundreds of other people, and people were screaming, crying, fainting. Any human reaction you could think of was going on in that church and on the street as well. It was such pandemonium, Hollywood could never recreate what was going on. So anyway, there I was in the church, and then my bosses asked me, you know, if I would do them a favor. I work for the Port Authority, and the Port Authority runs a bus terminal in Midtown, New York. My department runs that bus terminal. They said, be our eyes and ears and go up and go to the bus terminal and see what's going on, and the police inspector could probably, you know, fill you in. So I said, okay, I'm a good soldier, so I decided, okay, I'll do that. And I was getting ready to go, and it was unbelievable. It was a loud, loud ba-voom, and it was like a fingernail across the chalkboard, screeching metal, and the chandeliers in the church shook, and now we're all screaming. Everyone's screaming. We all go running out into the street to see that the second tower had been hit. Now we all understand that we are being attacked. And in the 17 minutes between the first tower being hit and the second tower being hit, the entire site was flashing emergency response vehicles, red lights, blue lights, yellow lights, just flashing, and sirens from a distance coming towards you. And the police were screaming, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. So as I said, I was asked to go to the bus terminal, so I ran, and I got on the last subway that went north, which was a foolish move, but I did it anyway, and I did get to the bus terminal as requested. And when I got to the bus terminal, I walked into the police inspector's office, and the South Tower fell down 56 minutes after it was hit. And my bosses then contacted me again and said, well, now that this has happened, it's unimaginable, unthinkable to us. This was not supposed to happen. These buildings could stand the impact of a plane. So they said, now that this has happened and the police have mobilized and they're coming back down to the World Trade Center, could you continue to be our eyes and ears and go back to the World Trade Center with them? I said yes. I should have been afraid, but I was not, and I do not know why. And I said sure, and New Jersey Transit, local bus company, donated buses, and I came back down here with the police, and I came about 6 to 8 blocks north of here, the Manhattan Borough Community College, and I went out in the street. Once again, I'm just a civilian. I don't know about police work. I don't know about terrorism. And I went out and stood in the street, which was called West Street, and I watched my beloved building collapse 102 minutes after it was hit. And I made my way home to Hoboken, New Jersey. Took a while, and then I started looking for my people. Via BlackBerry, I had heard about
You
my
had
staff.
quite a few colleagues and staff members that worked in the building.
Yes, I worked there for a long time, so it wasn't just the people I worked with. I mean, I worked there for years and years. I worked for my agency for many years, and so I knew hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who worked there.
I can't imagine.
Did anyone survive that you knew?
Well, many people survived. Many people did survive. Most of my staff survived, except for 2 people who are my staff. They were killed here. And my agency, we lost 84 people. And I'm a long-term employee, so I knew well over half of them.
I still remember I was a sophomore in college and trying to get in touch with you. We're calling and we're calling and we're calling, and all we heard was all circuits are busy, all circuits are busy. But I was grateful when we finally got that email saying that you were okay. So thank you for sharing that with us. And we know that you've taken that tragedy that happened to you on 9/11 to some of your colleagues and staff members, and you've turned it into something positive by volunteering your time here at the Tribute Museum. Can you talk a little bit about what you do here?
What we do here? Well, we do a variety of things here. The thing that I do the most of, I give walking tours. It's called Person-to-Person Histories, which humanizes the event. We talk about our direct connection to the events of 9/11. We go out into the Memorial Plaza, and we talk about it. And our visitors are very curious about what went on, and also they're curious about how we as people felt, and what happened before, during, and after. That's the thing that I do most of. We also have school programs. We also have gallery guide programs. When in the room we're standing in right now, we do a thing. It's called My 9/11 Story, in which we stand right in front of the picture behind you, and we talk for about 15 minutes about our 9/11 story.
So how long did it take you to recover from such a tragic event, and did you ever recover?
Well, the answer to that is you never recover, you just adjust. It becomes a new normal, and it's part of life. It was the most horrific day in American history, and you have to accept it, and you have to move on. And doing those tours, as I said, the walking tours, is actually my therapy. Yeah. Aside from giving people information, it's my therapy, and it's very rewarding. And as I said, it's my therapy, my way to heal.
You've also given back here at the Tribute Museum in other ways, and one of those ways is visiting Japan. Tell us what you did in Japan.
Well, after the triple disaster of the earthquake, tsunami, and the nuclear meltdown, the Tribute Center reached out. That was 3/11/11, and they decided they would have a mission, Goodwill Ambassador mission, to help those people, support them in their profound grief and profound sadness. And I had the honor and privilege to go last year on the Goodwill Ambassador mission, and we go there to support them in any way we can, because we understand we have a bond with them that not everybody's going to have, and we have a special bond with anyone who's been through anything like this. And we went there, and it was so rewarding to go to temporary housing, to visit their survivors, also see their children, and like beyond, there's certain groups that have been established for children. And we had, it's really so incredibly rewarding to give back and to pay it forward, because so many people came here to help us. I feel especially, that we have to continue to help others.
That's fantastic.
You are amazing. You are really, truly an inspiration. Thank you.
Thank you
so much for sharing
Thank
your
you for
story.
sharing your story today.
You're welcome.
Anybody know what that smoke is in Lower Manhattan?
I'm sorry, say again?
A lot of smoke in Lower Manhattan.
A lot of smoke in Lower Manhattan?
So we're here with Mary Lopel. Mary is a senior curator, or is the senior curator here at the 9/11 Tribute Museum. Welcome, Mary. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
This has been an incredible experience today, and it's certainly one I won't forget.
Absolutely, and we are honored to be here filming, and for you to organize all of this, thanks again. Tell us your mission here at the Tribute Museum.
Well, I think you heard from some of the people you've already met that our mission is to share the personal stories of September 11th. But beyond that, and especially in our new place here, our new space at 92 Greenwich Street, we are really aiming to tell the story of how people in the 9/11 community have given back to help other people in the 16 years since September 11th. You know, we've lived with September 11th, with the horror and the grief, for 16 years now, and I think most of us in this community have found that the most helpful way for us to move forward is by doing something to help somebody else who's experienced some kind of trauma or loss in the years since. And that includes people right in our own community, and it includes people nationally, and it includes people all around the world. Every day so many horrible things are happening, and if we can do something that gives back a little bit to all the help that we received after 9/11, it's been extremely meaningful.
I mean, that outreach focus is amazing, and the Japan trip, I mean, I can only imagine what that experience was like for those in Japan, having someone who's lived through a similar tragedy.
Well, I think that's one of the things that you see behind me that's highlighted here. We've highlighted so many 9/11 based organizations and foundations that are doing work in Afghanistan, in Africa, in Japan, in Oklahoma, in North Carolina, ways that people have gone out to help rebuild communities, to support survivors, to reach out to children who could use help with literacy or health care. We have many, many amazing examples of people in the 9/11 community who have done something to give back.
Well, thank you very much. Where can people find out more about the Tribute Museum?
You could go online to 911tributemuseum.org, and we would love to have you visit us both online and right here in person at 92 Greenwich Street.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Today has been such an incredible experience. Learning and hearing the stories from volunteers here have just really touched me personally, and I hope you out there feel the same way.
Certainly takes us back to the day.
Absolutely.
And it was amazing hearing from those that were actually involved. Michelle and I want to thank Lee, Dan, Ann, and Maria for sharing their stories today. It couldn't have been easy to tell those stories. And we also want to thank Mary for making this happen today. And we love to share this with our viewers in the Hudson Valley. Please come down and check out the 9/11 Tribute Museum here in Lower Manhattan.
It is unbelievable, and the people here are so warm and welcoming, and you can learn so much here about our history. Check us out next Monday, 8 a.m. We'll see you then. Bye.
Take care.